So at this point, at 6:05, I'd like to call to order the August 16th, 2023 meeting of the Co-op School Board. I have a process observer list, which I should have voted. Oh, it would be member Whalen is volunteering to serve as the process observer. Dawn, thank you, John. Thank you, Dawn. So I'm asking for Mabel Whalen to volunteer, thank you very much. I think we have an agenda, at least one agenda adjustment.
Sure, if we could pull JLCB, we'll just take that back to policy.
Okay, so that would be deliberative item number 5. It wasn't in your packet, and we need a little bit more time, but be prepared for it to come up next month as fourth and adopt, because we really do want to get it finished. So we'll put it back into the policy list. And then do we have any other agenda adjustments?
Not from the administration.
Okay. And so resignations and correspondence?
I just have a piece of correspondence. As many of the board members know, the adequacy aid calculation was changed this year at the state. So by the end of this month, we'll know exactly excuse me, what that means for revenue. It will mean increased revenue. So once we have that figure, we'll come back to the board and have to decide if we would like to post a special meeting, because we would need to seek permission to be able to use that revenue. If we decided that we didn't wish to do that, it would go into the budget and just fall down to the balance at the end of the year to offset the tax rate. We're not sure exactly what that figure will be, because there are a variety of different changes in the formula, but we are expecting information from the state later this month, and we'll discuss it at our September meeting, and then decide if we'd like to proceed forward with a special meeting.
Excellent. Thank you. Are there any questions on that? Terrific. And moving forward, we're going to need to approve some minutes. Let me pull those out. We have some minutes from the school board meeting on July 12th, 2023. We have some amendments that were offered. Page 5, line 6, correct the spelling of archaeology. I'm glad I could say it right. Page 5, line 9, replace nom, N-O-N, with non, N-O-N. And page 8, line 11, delete when, following the word ago. So I need a motion to accept as amended.
So moved.
Moved by Beth.
Second?
Second by Krista. And Beth,
Oh wait, I'm going to abstain, but I can
I think you can make the motion.
Yeah, I can make the motion.
Okay, so are there any questions or comments on the minutes? All those in favor? Rob, you have to abstain, sorry. You weren't here, no,
Oh,
that
that's
was
right.
great, yeah, so,
I
So-
usually make all of them.
yeah, it's okay.
I will abstain.
Yeah, so 3 ayes. Okay, any nays and abstentions? So that's a 3-0-2 vote, the motion carries. And we didn't have a non-public, so great, that's all we have for minutes. Whew, just flying here. Okay, so in a moment, I'm going to open the floor for public input. We'll ask that you state your name and address for the record, and that the public input period is not intended for a back and forth discussion, but rather an opportunity for the board to hear from residents before acting on agenda items. I will be opening the floor now, and by our say, we need to keep the floor technically open for 30 minutes. So I'll be opening the floor at 6:08, and we will be closing the minutes at the public input at 6:38. If someone comes in between that, in that half an hour period, we will allow them to speak. However, we may choose a different time for them to speak, and we have to wait a little bit. So, seeing no public input at 6:00, the floor is open at 6:09, and we will be closing it at 6:39. All right. Moving forward, principal and athletic reports.
Sure.
So I will let you guys decide how you want to do this.
Yep, I'll go first.
Great.
Actually, I'll kick things off with the athletics updates. Fall sports have begun. The building is coming alive once again. We have identified homecoming weekend as the weekend of Saturday the 23rd, with activities beginning on Friday the 22nd. Brian also wanted me to highlight the beginning of the middle school dugout construction. The slabs have been poured, we did provide a picture there. And it sounds like the framing is going to start in the very near future. We have hired a number of different coaches, both fall and winter it appears, and he has listed those there along with existing open positions. And while there haven't been many competitions or anything to highlight as far as student performance, happy to try to answer any questions that might exist for athletics.
Are there any questions on the athletic board? So the dugouts are in process.
Yep, the slabs are poured,
Uh-huh.
and I think the
Great.
framing is, I don't know if they have a date yet, but it's just, sounds, the term he used was when the concrete is cured, so I would imagine very near future.
Great. Okay, and just for the public, if you're interested in some coaching positions, there's quite a few available, but a couple that are kind of pressing, because fall is right around the corner.
Yes,
We
ma'am.
have brand new dugouts, so.
And we went for the spring sports, but we're looking for some.
Or if you have a boat.
Or you have a vote.
All right, how about the principal's report?
All right, so I did want to update, since our last board meeting, in working with report when we proposed the business and professional writing course. So I just wanted to put that out there that that proposal would include a budgetary impact of a little over $3,000. So $3,050 would be the estimated cost of a singular classroom set of textbooks for that course. So that they wouldn't go home with kids, they would stay in the room. If there were multiple sections, they would just remain in the classroom. I did provide, and even since the 10th, these numbers have moved slightly, but our estimated enrollment on 810, or the enrollment on 810 was 776, and you can see the breakdowns there, almost a wash with transfer and withdrawals, and as you can see, in class just over 200, and our smallest class remains that group that's 2026.
So have the numbers gone up since the 10th or down?
Good question. Nothing significant. There's been some transfers and some withdrawals. I would say the number would be plus or
About the
minus
same.
3
Okay.
on either end. Given the day, you might get a transfer in and 2 withdrawals, and then the next day you might get a withdraw and
Yeah.
nothing on the other end. So I can certainly update once the school year rolls as to where that number stands, but on the 10th it was 776.
Do you get any sense as to whether the transfers and withdrawals are due to relocations versus just school choice decisions?
I can't say I would draw any conclusions on any front. I would
But do you
say,
get that data? Do you know?
yeah, actually I just had a tab open that I was trying to consolidate of transfer students. I do see, it's usually with a parent move, and then there's also the students who are at a charter school and are opting to return to their local resident local public school. And then you get the opposite, where students might be transferring out to go to, and then you get the moves.
Yeah, no, I'm just wondering whether there's a significant portion of, in particular, the withdrawals are due to people who are just choosing to not be in HB and going to an alternative school.
Or homeschooling, or
Yeah,
are they
an
taking
alternative.
advantage of the last one?
Yeah,
It's been
the-
around for like 2 or 3 years,
Some
the voucher.
alternative
Yeah.
as opposed to a forced change due to relocation?
Right, like a relocation, sure. I think that's a good question. We'd love to have a little bit, we're not expecting to have that information right this minute, but if you have it.
I mean, I can read the next school, is that okay to read?
I wouldn't ask for that, I'm just curious how, of the.
I'll summarize it and I'll provide it, in an appropriate manner next board meeting.
Yeah, that would be great. I think that would be helpful for
Okay.
us. And you'll have more up-to-date enrollment information, because school will have started by that meeting, so that by that
Yep.
point, so, I mean, I know that people can still move after September starts, but I think the numbers will be even a little bit more solid then, because most folks.
Yeah, I can categorize the type of transfer and withdrawal.
Right. Like-
Especially if it's because they're choosing to enroll elsewhere, then most likely to happen before the school year starts.
Yes, that's a good point.
Yeah,
And you want both the transfers out and the transfers in?
I think both of those pieces of information would be, but I think Tom specifically was focused on the withdrawals, right? But I think it would be good to know if there are people who are coming back or choosing to come to here. I mean, I don't really understand all the things about the school choice program, but I believe we could end up having students join us because of it, right? That maybe don't live in our community. So I don't know if that's happened.
It's also, I mean, that, and I'm also seeing, we're doing lots and lots of school physicals now, and I'm seeing movement too, just post-pandemic stuff, people moving back into schools that were doing some homeschooling.
Right,
making
sure.
movement still,
So
so.
I think it'd be good to
yeah,
have
it's
that
yeah, it'd be
information.
interesting.
Can you make a note of that, Tim?
Yep, I got it, yep.
Thank you,
Sure thing.
because I won't remember.
Yep, yeah, I'll make sure that in next month's
Unless
board report.
when I read the minutes, I'll try to remember, maybe don't. But I usually read the minutes when they first come out, and then okay.
So moving on, so we talked about a little bit about this at PTSA, I think, at one point. We have purchased the rights to view a movie titled Like, and it is about the role of technology and the use of smartphones and more specifically social media, and again, more specifically in the lives of our students. The movie is made by a company, IndieFlix, and you may recall the movie that was purchased years back by the PTSA called Tanks. This is the same company. This came highly recommended. We have viewed it as an administrative team. We will roll this out with a viewing at BLT next week, our leadership team retreat next Monday. And then the plan for rollout with our staff, students, and community will ensue in the first month. So there are resources available. We will have a member of the company present it both for our staff and discuss the rollout and discuss how to support students and resources that'll be available to our teachers to try and find that balance for our kids and have some common language and understanding about where that line exists. So that will occur in, I'll say, the first 6 weeks of school. I think the goal will be late September into October, and actually it's a 7-12 viewing, so students at the middle school will be viewing it as well. They have some age-appropriate resources available to them as well.
I just want to add that is grant funded.
Yeah, I was
Oh,
gonna
thank
ask,
you.
because I
Yeah,
know that we had
sorry.
some questions I happened to be at the PTSA meeting when we talked about it, and it's not cheap, and the PTSA didn't have enough funds to
Yep.
cover it, so it was great.
Yep, it was grant funded, yep.
Are we required to do something as far as preview or summarization and opt-in, opt-out optioning with this?
Yep, and we'll send all that information out. So I think I included more information about the film and the public viewing to share with families after school starts in September. So we'll get all that information out to parents.
So the public viewing is going to be before the in-school viewing?
Yeah, so we did an admin, we'll do a building leadership team, and then staff, then parents, and we can send a link too. It's not just a public viewing, which we will host. We'll host a public viewing in the evening hours for parents to come in, and we'll have an opportunity to have dialogue around the topic. But we'll also send the link out, and parents can watch on their own.
Really?
And the window is a month. So from the time we get access to it, which will be essentially when our staff views it, September 15th, I think, was the window we opened. So once we send it out to parents, they have about a month to open and view it. It's about a 45-minute film in length.
But then there'll be like an overlap, obviously, while the parents, the kids will start to see it in school.
Yep, so we'll watch it in school. The plan will be to view it during home-based cow block in a smaller setting, so the students will have an opportunity to have dialogue with an adult, and that adult will have previewed it and then also been provided with resources to support that conversation following.
Could you send the link to the school board also, please?
Yeah, so when I send it out, I'll use the Swift Reach and it'll be in email.
Like in one of those updates.
I'll
from high school.
probably send it by itself, just so it
Right.
gets some attention, it doesn't fall.
And so parents will have an opportunity to view it for a month, but they will have like maybe a little bit of time to view it before the kids see it, so a parent could opt out.
Yeah, correct, so we do have to, we have to get it out to parents, and then we have to show it to the kids, and scheduling all that will require some logistical management, so yeah, it won't be a full month of access before the kids see
Right,
it.
right.
But all those, all the information and language around the film will be sent out and made public.
Does the movie carry a specific age rating?
That's, you said 7 to 12.
Yeah, the resources that are available are targeted towards specific
No, I didn't know if the motion
audiences.
picture industry has rated it.
It's an educational film. I think it's
Doesn't
targeting
have a rating.
adolescents. I would say it targets adolescents.
Okay. No, I didn't realize it was education. I thought this was going to be, I think Angst was available as a public. I thought they had rated it, but it doesn't matter.
We're good.
Okay.
Really quick to clarify, I'm sorry, I know Tom asked, but I didn't understand the answer. So it's, parents are going to opt in or they'll opt out? It's gonna be shown, like, that's a big difference.
So the challenge here is, I don't have access to all of the documents at the moment. They provide you with a permission slip, and I haven't seen exactly what that looks like. If it makes most sense, and I'll work with administration to develop a plan of whether it makes most sense to
I
opt
think
in,
by
opt out.
policy, it's to opt out.
I think the
It's
policies,
not.
I think
It's
the
one of the
policies that you
Considered
have to.
a classroom, academic piece of material, and it doesn't fall into those certain categories in our policy. The default is opt out.
Okay, thank you.
But clearly, we should probably all double check that.
Yeah, we certainly will, and again, if this ended up in the September report, it would have been too close to the viewing, I
Right.
wanted to get
No,
time.
I'm-
So I don't have all the information right now on it, and actually on Monday, when I have my BLT retreat, we have a week window of preview access, so I can view it with the building admin team before the month starts, so.
It's completely appropriate to have it at this point.
Absolutely, thank you so much.
Yep. And then we have some existing open professional staff positions. The special ed case manager position does remain open. We do have a contingency plan if that goes unfilled by the start of school. We do have some prospect in mind, but there are some challenges around that specific position at the moment. English long-term sub, so that is a maternity leave, and then we have the computer science position, which the alternative plan that we had discussed at a previous board meeting is being implemented, and that position does not appear to be one that we will fill this school year, or at least to start the school year. We do have open CTE van driver positions, but again, those are active interview committees where we are interviewing people at the moment.
So you're implementing the computer science teacher alternative plan, would that mean that you will not be actively interviewing because once you implement the plan, isn't it having one of the teachers take some of the classes?
Yeah, those classes will be collapsed,
Right.
so.
Yeah, okay.
It looks like that's what's happening.
So it stays open, but not super active. Right, I got you.
And then some dates I just want to highlight real quickly. We have the Chromebook distribution prior to the start of school. That information will be communicated with families in the coming week. We have a number of different school counseling offerings, including the FAFSA parent presentation, which will occur in the auditorium on the 13th. We have open house on the 7th. Sorry, that's out of order there. Open house for parents on September 7th, that's the second Thursday there, after kids come back. And we also have the college planning presentation for parents. Oh, and Challenge Day, which we've talked about on various occasions. Challenge Day is scheduled for October 4th. And I have a meeting next week with the Challenge Day folks.
Is that through Age for the Change?
Yep.
Challenge Day,
Yep,
that
Age for the
program that
Change,
comes
yep.
in and, yeah,
Yep.
Tom and I went, I think, 1 year.
Yeah, I've yet to take
Right.
part in one, but
Yeah.
very much looking forward to it.
We haven't had it in a while, right?
I think the only time it happened was the 5 years I was not at the high school, so I missed it.
Yeah, okay, great. Are you going to be taking part in it?
I plan to, yeah.
That's great. It was a great program.
And I'm open to any questions or comments on my report.
I feel like we asked you questions while you
Yeah,
were
this one,
downloading
yeah,
the
we kind of open
app.
dialogue on it, which that works.
Okay. Thank you so much. That was great.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're moving on to middle school.
So this year, we're kicking off the year with a focus on kindness. We've put together a small rock committee that kind of started this work last year, just revamping our rock program, which I'll speak to a little bit more in the next part. But focusing on the start of the year, Jillian Berkeley, the school social worker, co-op social worker, has come down this summer a few times to work with us in our rock committee to put together a presentation for students during 7th grade orientation. And our staff will receive a kindness presentation just on ways to implement kindness into everyday teaching, but also how we can kind of build some culture and practices just with everyday interactions with students to, again, focus on kindness and treating everybody respectfully and kindly, which I think we need just not only in our school, but throughout the country. So we're excited for that, for the start of the year. We've actually changed one of the letters in ROC, so moving along to the ROC vision, mission, and curriculum work, which I'll do a short presentation after my report. We've changed the letters. They were originally reading, organization, I forget what the C was, which probably speaks to our rock work, and then K was knowledge. So we've changed those to relationships, organization, community, and kindness. Again, to focus on kindness, but I think all of you have probably experienced working with a middle schooler at some point, and the importance of focusing on relationships. Yes, we're going to continue on with our academic rigor, but really focusing on building positive relationships with our students, so they're excited about coming into the building, just because we're still kind of dealing with some of those COVID backlash behaviors and just trauma. We're seeing a little more trauma in schools, so we're trying to really support students, build positive relationships with them. So we've done a little bit of research. We ran into this company called Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, CASEL, who has SEL competencies: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. This is a research-based company that's been around for at least a decade. So we've really kind of tried to build some foundation with those SEL skills and building them into ROC to really be intentional with what we're doing with our students in ROC. We realize that there's some strategic plan stuff going on at the same time, so we want to work kind of parallel with that work that's going on to make sure that we're staying on with the district goals and vision as well. So we're excited for this work. Colleen Hoffman, the new 7th grade PE teacher last year, has been extremely helpful in this work, as well as Carrie Dodd, one of our counselors, Allie Bushman, the assistant principal, and again, Jillian Berkeley has been really helpful in this work. And we're excited for hopefully the students to come in and ROC's always been a great time for students, but to have a little more fidelity across the building, to have common language around kindness, empathy, sympathy. So again, if it starts in ROC, it's talked about kind of all day. So we're just a little more intentional with some of these social and emotional things. ESY, I mentioned at the beginning of the summer, was revamped by our new Student Services Administrator, Catherine Ransom. Big shout out to her for her revamp. All 15 students participated and appeared to really enjoy their summer. I got to go on one of the last field trips down to the bowling alley, and we had a lot of fun with the teachers and the students.
The bowling alley?
Yeah, there's a reason why I didn't invite you, because you're good. Facilities work, shout out to our custodial staff. You guys all saw how great the building, the floors look. As you also saw, there's a big project going on right there, the elevator, which has needed some work for a few years, but we're getting on it, and thanks to Lance and Ben, Lance Finnemore and Ben Aria for getting on that project, because that's needed. We are actually fully staffed at the middle school. Maybe I'm downplaying my emotions on that, but I'm very excited. So thank you to Andy and Gina for all their help with getting us fully staffed. Teachers and paraprofessionals, we are fully staffed. Our athletics does still need some coaches, as you saw. Clubs, we're looking for a debate, drama, game, and video game club advisor. And there's our enrollment numbers. We're at 377 as of last week, 184 7th graders and 193 8th graders. I can't stress enough how excited I am for this year, again, because we're fully staffed, but also just some of the rock work we've done, and just some of our new staff that are really excited to kind of get in the building and work with these awesome students. There are some important dates. The big one, we have students coming in next week. We have our student open house days next Monday and Thursday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. That's when students come in, roam the building, try their locker, get comfortable, meet some admin, meet some counselors. We do have some staff coming in this year, which I'm really excited about, just to kind of meet and greet and help students. And then we kick off the following week with 7th grade orientation. And I'm open for questions or comments.
Oh, looks great. Looks great. I think you're going to go into the summary of rock at this point.
Yes, I can show you real quick.
Unless anybody has questions on the other pieces.
No, the floors are very, very shiny.
Very good. Were you going to say, Krista, did you have a question?
Oh, sorry.
And Tim did talk about Blake. We are following his lead with Blake, and we're going to implement and probably use rock during that time as well.
Andy, while he's getting stuff, has a date time been established for the welcome assembly that you do?
Yeah.
Oh, can you help me out, Gina?
August 28th
Yep.
at 8 a.m.
Yep.
at the,
August 28th at 8 a.m. You are all most welcome at the auditorium. You can note to send that out to everybody.
Can't believe it's coming up so fast. Where does the summer go, people? Okay, so. that's
Into the
these
swamp
pages.
this year.
This has been a really rainy summer. But everything looks so beautifully clean. Not swampy. Let's try to just think of it as green and not swampy.
So Colleen, Hoffman, myself, can people hear, or should I go to the mic?
Do you want me to do the slides?
If you don't mind.
Yeah, if you want to go to the mic.
Thank you. I can use that one, right?
Yep.
Thanks, Tim. So we've kind of dedicated Monday through Thursday, we have rock for 15 minutes in the morning. Friday is a shortened rock because of PLC for 5 minutes. So we're really trying to use Monday through Thursday, that 15 minutes, to be, again, really intentional with some of these skills, relationship skills. So on Monday or the first day of the week, obviously the second week of school, we don't have school on Monday. So that's why the date Tuesday, September 5th, is our first day of the week, which will be the R, relationships. And we just kind of started each slide with targeting the competency, so students are really aware of what we're trying to do with this time. And obviously we're building relationships, but our teachers naturally, I think, connect well with our students. Sometimes these types of conversations cannot be as natural for some teachers, so this is more of just a guide. Obviously teachers are able to kind of build off of this or create their own kind of activities at the bottom. But Monday when they come in, just asking students how their weekend was, something that they enjoyed, maybe something they didn't enjoy, and then maybe an activity just for teachers if there's time. Most of the time in rock we're kind of rushing, but for Mondays especially, it's a great time to build those relationships. So that's what the R stands for, relationships this year. Tim, you can go to next. Organization, so self-management and responsible decision-making. Catherine Ransom has also found executive functioning training for us during one of our PD days. Her name's Kirsten Jacobson. So she's coming in to help staff with just best practices around executive functioning in organization, because that's another area we've noticed students are struggling a little bit since the pandemic. So again, activities at the bottom that will help kind of guide teachers. One of the things that we hear from teachers is we're constantly asking more of them, and this is actually something that we've tried to take off of their plate. So again, Mrs. Hoffman is doing a lot of summer work and helping us create these lessons, but this is supposed to be like a one-stop shop for teachers so that they don't have to do a lot of planning, and they can come in and it's just one click, open up, ready to go. Good. Community, so this is where hopefully we'll be doing more community building activities or community meetings. I think we have something planned where we're going to do a flag creation, so students are going to have an opportunity to make a flag that will represent their team, and then the team that gets voted on the most will go and make their flag, and that will get posted in the gym. So when we go to community meetings, or if there's events going on, they'll see their team flag up there, and they'll sit in front of that flag during community meetings and assemblies. And next. And kindness. So we're going to try and find different activities. The tough part with some of these cookie cutter programs around SEL is that students really don't find them engaging. They don't really apply to their lives today. So I think that's where Colleen, myself, Allie have done a really nice job, is trying to find either videos or activities that these students will actually enjoy. Coming from previous districts where we have purchased some of those cookie cutter programs, 7th graders are oftentimes much different than 8th graders, and we just want to make sure that students are really feeling like this is something that applies to them and they enjoy. So this is just a sample of a video. Tim, I think if you click on Kindness in Action, it's around a lunch table video. You might have to skip that.
It's coming out of something.
Can you go to the laptop directly?
Technology. I love technology. Just pass the candy. We're good. Take your time, guys. Don't worry. It's fine. What other mints? We used to bring winter green on mission trips. So every time I go to bring my people mission trips, which are trips where I slept on the floor, and they're met in the bathroom for weekends. So it's like a nice memory, and yet not so good.
I always think a can release is very good.
Yeah. So, no, we did it intentionally, so the kids would always remember. Okay, well, there's some sound. so looking forward to this. It'll be good.
Really hyped up now. Well, I'm really sorry. I thought it was, yeah.
It's not your fault, it's technology, it never works.
I don't think we have to watch.
Yeah, I mean, we can, if you,
It's more of a kindness kind of, basically, I'll give you the rundown that students, a freshman is sitting alone at a table, other upperclassmen go over, ask him to sit there, and then there's kind of a debrief about why they went over, what it feels like to sit with them. So I apologize for the technical
it's okay,
difficulty.
no worries.
It's okay.
No worries, I think we can probably send it. And this would take about a 2.5 minutes in
2.5-minute video,
and then the kids can talk about it.
and then the students have discussions with their rock teacher.
It's great.
How are rock assignments made?
So that is a good question. In 7th grade, they're randomized. When they go into 8th grade, we use a little bit of a get-to-know-you kind of game, and then try and build their rocks based off of their interests. A lot of times it's reading-based. They create kind of a little game for students to talk about if they were going to a camp, what type of camp would they really enjoy to go to? Would it be more of a arts-based camp, an athletics-based camp, a video game-based camp? And then we kind of use those answers to kind of help structure the rock.
Did you survey them
No, we just kind of use, it's kind of like a game.
towards the end of 7th
Yes.
grade? You do that and
Yep.
then you kind of have that information
Yep.
and then you use it to build.
Yeah.
Is the idea to group similar or to intentionally mix?
Similar. Which is kind of different in 7th grade.
That's different than what they teach us about advisory, where the goal is to have the kids associating with kids they may not, they're less likely to see during their normal day.
We've tried this for 2 years, so.
I'm not saying right or wrong, I'm
Yep.
just trying to understand that.
I actually am thinking that through too, Tom, and I think the difference is like, that would be like for 4 years of advisory in high school where you're random and stay with it, but this is a 2-year program and we've always changed the rocks because of the teams and all that, so.
Yeah, no,
I think it makes some
I'm
sense.
just thinking out loud, not saying you're right or wrong.
Yeah, and I've been to a lot of college information sessions about living and learning communities and the fact that kids do have success making transitions when they're grouped with like-minded, interested kids. It's like living in college and it's a different situation, but you could kind of say in 8th grade it might be a nice time for them to be with like-minded, like people who have the same interests for a year.
I will say there's a lot of opportunities for rocks to mix. We do a lot of team building activities where we combine rocks, community meetings every month, so we do mix those groups quite a bit.
Are all the kids in a given rock on the same team?
No.
My only question was, one of the comments you made was about sort of the organization and executive functioning piece. So my understanding is like these activity suggestions are kind of like for the teachers a little bit of like a plug and play. Like they can go in and be like, okay, I'm going to do the Power School thing, and it's all kind of laid out for them how to do that and what they're. I guess that's a bad example because that was not easy for them. But so they'll just be able to kind of like go in and pull the lesson plan, and they're not having to create it if
Everything
they want
is going
to.
to be Google Slides based,
Right.
so we have a HBMS teachers Google Classroom that admin's kind of taking control of, like our own classroom. So
Right.
teachers go in, they open up the slides for each week, and it's just they open up
Right.
and they can just go.
So they'll have whatever, that's what I was gonna ask, they'll have different ones every week.
Yep, yep.
Nice.
And there's monthly themes. We have a rock monthly theme calendar that the first week is kindness and welcome back. The second week is our bullying
Second
awareness
month.
month. Sorry, the second month is our bullying awareness month. And then we get into generosity and giving thanks. So we have themes that go on with each month too.
That's great.
I'm just curious, I don't know that you completed your point. Were you just asking a question, or was there a?
No, I was just kind of trying to figure out like how much pressure is on it, like how much more we're adding to a teacher's workload with, I guess I was specific to the organization piece because executive functioning is those skills, require specific, it's a specific skill set that you're trying to get to. And if I were a teacher and they need to develop a lesson plan for that, I might feel a little bit like, a little lost or feel like that is additional work. So I wanted to make sure that we were kind of giving them the option. And it sounds like for Mondays, icebreakers, there's probably some things they can pull. I know it's not technically pulling, I know they're going to Google Slides, but whatever, I'm gonna call it pulling. But then they can also just maybe create something on their own.
Absolutely.
And can they do that also with the organization stuff, or you prefer them to kind of stick to the?
I think we're asking if they are gonna kind of look into doing their own thing, to communicating that with the building, again, to have some fidelity, so everybody's kind of hearing and seeing
Right, the same
similar
thing.
things, yeah.
That makes sense.
But if a teacher is very passionate, that's something we're gonna start the year off with. An SEL lesson or whatever lesson, there's different things, like we have a dot day that our librarian's very passionate about. So we're gonna build those in that teachers still wanna keep as kind of the HB tradition.
And I ask all these questions, not just, I think this is great, I think this is really helpful for us as a board to see what is gonna go on in Rock this year. I definitely think that, but I also think we've had lots of conversations about advisory and the concern related to, asking more from a profession that has felt like they've been overwhelmed. So how do we balance that, and what do we do? And it sounds like you have a good plan here to do that.
I think so, we've been talking with the union about it as well, so.
Great. Any other questions? I don't want to know what I'm talking.
You had so many good questions.
Thank you.
No, I think it's great. I'm excited to see it play out.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I am too. And now I know what it all stands for. It's great. Okay, so no other questions on that, no questions on athletics, no questions on HBHS. So we're going to move on to our discussion topics. I just want to check with superintendent. I do think we need Tim to be here through the policy discussion. And Patrick, I'm not sure if, I know that one of them does refer to 7th and 8th grade coursework, but I feel like Tim's got it under control. So is it okay to release one? Is it,
Totally your choice?
Yeah, it's fine with me, Patrick, if Tim's, you didn't take him bowling and now you're gonna leave him at the board meeting, but that's between the two of
I
you.
know what I'm gonna do next, or when we have that opportunity.
Yeah.
Can we release the superintendent?
I don't think-
No, I'm serious.
What about board notes?
I-
You don't seem to be feeling well.
Well not, but.
Go home.
With
Yeah,
all
we
this-
have Jamie here.
With all that's going on, with health stuff going around,
Rob, you got the finance facilities?
Do you need a good other?
It's one principal, one
they're all
admin,
from
and a board member can go to. Is that?
I really appreciate it.
is there anything that
Okay.
we can roll over?
I appreciate that, thank you very much. Thank you, David. Thank you, Tim, we never started it off.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so at this point in the discussion, this is really a board item. We don't have anything in our packet. It's just feedback on board docs. So at the last meeting, Gina presented us sort of how to work this thing and how to use this. And obviously, it's been a big change for us. And so I wanted to, we decided last month to give us a month to kind of look at it and kind of give you some feedback, Gina, and the team, not just Gina, but the team who are developing board docs. So this is your chance. Be nice. Let's go. Anyone?
I still like it.
Yeah.
No, I like it, and I wasn't here last month, so it's taking some getting used to. I think having the new website go up at such a similar time, I think my biggest struggle has been just because of the transition, looking for June minutes and June stuff is in one location, and so it's gonna take time, but I'm finding everything, it's just taking me a little bit longer, but it's all there still from everything that I'm looking for. It's just, we're looking in two different places, so just the reminder that before board books and after, it's gonna be stored in a different way, I assume, is that kind of,
No,
or is
so I
it
was
gonna
just gonna
actually
say long-term
transition in?
is those will make it
Beautiful.
their way onto board docs so that
Awesome.
they'll be searchable in the same way.
Great.
But that's a matter of manpower,
Yeah,
so.
absolutely, so down the road kind of
Yep.
thing. but-
So right now, for the members of the public, any minutes before June 2023 would be like hosted on the website, right? And then if you want anything after that, you have to go to board docs.
For now.
For now.
I don't know if I said that the way technically right, but like they're in two different places right now.
Yes.
The links that are on the website, there are links on the website for the recent stuff. Does that go to board docs?
Do you mean for the committee work?
No, actually, I thought for school board meetings.
Are you talking about like June or after, like July? Because that's, I think that's where the split is.
So there were committees, so the
No, this is
facilities
a-
committee and.
I was looking at March, April, May, June.
Right, so those are still where they were.
When does it, where does it?
June 30th, so the start of the new fiscal year, July 1, everything moved to board docs.
Oh, okay.
However, and then post July 1, committee meetings, so the facilities committee, instructional best practices subcommittee, grading and assessment committee, those notes are right now housed on the site until we have a more permanent location for them.
But for the board doc stuff, do you get to it
You
through
can
the
get.
site?
Yes.
It just, would you someplace different?
Yeah, so you can get to board docs in a variety of ways, but if you don't know to look for board docs and you went the way you used to go, there's a big button that says, like, board docs, but it might say agendas are found here or something. It's trying to guide you to go there.
Right, so it says agenda and meeting minutes are now found here, and there's a big click to board docs, but then below that, there's meeting documents, and they have the meeting documents, agendas and minutes up through June 2023, and then just committee information under there for July through December, because those pieces have just not been moved over to board docs yet. You don't have a place in board docs yet to figure out where to put them, so.
Well, so the committee meetings used to be in the superintendent area.
Right.
And when everything was migrated over, those didn't migrate. So we just have to reconvene, figure out what's the best place for it, but I wanted them readily available, so I figured, well, people know that agendas and minutes are here, so let's stick them there until we find a permanent home for them.
Great. So was there any other feedback? I think the only comment we shared at the chairs meeting is the concern that in order for, if we were to move completely to this, like this month, the communications and compliance specialist, Ms. White, she sent us a PDF, which is what we're used to. But for those of us who don't bring a device that connects to the Wi-Fi, it would be challenging to use this, because you have to download everything without having her create that PDF. So I think we might need a solution for that. And we talked a little bit at the chairs meeting about issuing board members a Chromebook. So, that's a possibility. Because it is definitely relatively easy to use when you're connected to the Wi-Fi. I just went through this afternoon and just opened every single PDF and every single link in a tab, so I can just flip through while I'm looking. And I am like the least likely person to do this, so.
Oh, I agree. I think
Right.
it's great, and I think it's easy to use. I just, because it was only 18 pages this month, I
Printed it.
went the old route, old school. But, no, I agree. I actually think it's very cool, and I think it's a good idea. I like it.
So it's entirely possible that I missed this, but did we get usernames and passwords?
Okay, so.
Yeah, there was
Yeah,
that about
so,
Dawn, I couldn't find that.
Okay, not just me.
Originally, when I had the training, I was like, I don't think people need usernames and passwords, it's just another thing. I don't see the benefit because we do put all of our content out for public viewing. So I couldn't see the use, and I didn't want there to be concern that we were hiding any information. When Dawn, our recording secretary, did the training, she did a separate training, so she didn't hear that we weren't going to do that. However, because she does send out an email with her outline, and she put it in there, I thought, well, that is a use for it. That seems very reasonable. So for September, everyone will have a username and a password, and I'll share with you how to access it, and you'll have to change the password. And then you'll be able to access the outline within Board Docs, and it's actually even, I think, but you can wait for September to see it yourself, easier because the outline flows with the agenda. So you're not flipping through, where's the motion? It's just right there with clickable links on that PDF.
So we're gonna have to learn something even more new?
Well, you don't
Again?
have to. You
Great.
don't have to because Dawn will continue to just send it out.
Okay.
But it's just another way to potentially increase functionality, and I can take some feedback.
So it'll
on
be
that.
like the agenda, but then the outline here kind of thing, or just?
No, so have you looked at the minutes that were posted from July?
Yeah. Yes.
So it opens up like that.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So you'll see, instead of minutes,
Yep.
just the same thing that she sends out, the outline.
So all of it will be into that one, like you'll click on the date for the meeting and be able to access agenda minutes, okay. And that's the only thing, I really like that you can flip between like co-op, school board, and the governing board, like that makes it much easier than the other, but it's just gonna take a little time to be able to jump between minutes, because when I was looking for minutes before, I felt like I couldn't find them, but they're there, you just have to go to the agenda. So it's, the way it's
Just
labeled
different.
as agenda, yeah, so I think that's just gonna, because before it was labeled agenda, minutes, anything like that, but now it's literally just labeled agenda, but
Yeah, that
underneath
is a
the
little-
agenda, then you can find the minutes but it took me a little while, so that's something I wonder if it's just a teachable thing where we know down the road, but really, I think the title agenda is almost misleading, because I think it's just the agenda, but when you click into it, you can print the agenda, you can view the agenda, or you can view the minutes, but the minutes are kind of hidden in there, it seems, but if that's the way we do it, we can get used to it and just educate, but it's hard to see, because right above that, there was the policy agenda, so there's policy agenda for August, so I'm sure once we see more of it in there, we'll see August, and you can go to the date, but right now, it's just kind of, there's only a few in there, so it's harder to navigate and figure out.
No, and I said at the
Oh,
last meeting
yeah.
that when I first came across districts that use board docs, I thought it was clunky. And then we came to it based on our need for hosting our policies. And then when I realized that they were all searchable, and that you could search one thing and figure out when we talked about it, when it was on the agenda, and what policy, I thought, well, that's certainly valuable. But it's definitely a learning curve and just getting familiar with it. But I can continue to have Emmy send out the PDF, so you have it that way. And because she does create it, because I'm required to keep my notes long-term. So she's doing that anyway, so she can easily send that out, and Dawn can continue to send out
The outline
the
in
outline.
a
I
PDF.
can't remember that.
That's
unfortunately.
okay.
The outline, and so we'll just take more time.
I think it sounds like a good plan to kind of keep doing it both ways for a little while, and then if it becomes too cumbersome, hopefully by that point, we'll have all kind of transitioned to doing board docs. I mean, if we can. Any other comments? Okay, so moving on, I have number 2. I couldn't remember, Tom, whether you had a meeting from the budget committee. We're gonna try to keep it on the
Yeah.
agenda as a placeholder.
There was no July meeting, so our next meeting is at the end of this month.
Okay, great, have fun at that.
I did pass along the list of signups for webinars, so we've started doing that.
So you're sending the NHSBA
Yeah.
announcements of webinars to them?
The webinars, I am filtering, I'm not sending stuff that is like a delegate assembly that
Right,
doesn't
right,
really,
right.
I want to give folks access to that.
Sure, great, thank you. And then the co-op facilities committee.
Yeah, so we had our first meeting in, so it was,
Weeks ago.
yeah, it was July, I believe. No, it was early
It's
August.
the first Wednesday of the month.
First Wednesday, right. I think I remember that. We had a good we first organized ourselves as a committee and talked a little bit about how our approach, and we also talked about some historical work that was done just to baseline everybody. So we start at least from the same point. I think what we'd like to do is see if we can get a couple site visits scheduled. I think maybe at our next meeting, we'll do a site, we'll offer the option to do a site walk here. And then I need to circle back with Lance to see if we can set up a time to maybe site walk up at the high school. Again, for people who want to see firsthand, things that we're talking about and things that we'll be considering to bring forward as recommendations. I do have some other materials that have been passed to me from the Energy Committee in town, so I'm reviewing some of that information, and we'll hopefully make some of that, that information available to the rest of the committee. So I'll probably finish up the review, probably either tonight or tomorrow, and then get that out. And then we'll be building our second agenda of our next meeting for September, and getting into a little bit more of some of the options that we talked about, you know, looking at what can be budgeted and addressed through the budget, and what maybe would have to come from another funding source to bring forward any kind of other recommendations. So we're really just kind of ramping up, but we did place a emphasis that December's coming, so we gotta, let's get into some of this detail, but let's not get bogged down where we can't bring something for December. So we're trying to keep that timeline first and foremost.
Did the House Select Board appoint a member?
They did not, I haven't heard from them. I
And
guess
is-
I could try again, but
And is someone from Brookline on, you're
Yes.
doing it, Tom? Okay, I'm sure we
No,
announced that.
it wasn't established at that point, but Ernie Pister is the Brookline.
I see that, I have the list in front of me. Rob Manza, Co-op School Board, you're from Co-op School Board, Raul Blanchet, Dave Eli, or Ellie, Eli, he's
Eli.
the SME, he's the vendor, right, is that?
Well, what's his technical role?
He's from the Energy Consultancy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, sorry. And then Brian Dennehy from Brookline, Tom Enright from Hollis, Ernie Pister from
Brendan
Brookline.
didn't make the meeting. Had he been in contact with you?
yes. So he plans to attend our next meeting, so I think we'll probably have a full squad, other than that empty position from.
Right, and then Andy, Gina,
Selectmen.
Kelly, and Lance. Yeah,
Right.
I have them.
One of the things that I thought went really well is by the end, we had sort of settled on a tiered approach where we know that the default fallback position, much as it was before, is the cost of just repairing what we know or believe will need to be repaired. And then we're going to, I think, look for a second tier, which is what is the minimum investment to buy us X number of years, because there's a very real possibility that, say, 5 years from now, the options will be dramatically different. So if people want to say, well, rather than tearing everything out, putting something all new in, and trying to push the envelope with today, what can we do to buy us a reasonable period of time to let the technology, the systems, the market catch up? And then the third tier is, okay, if we were starting from scratch and had nothing, what would we do? What's the cost for that? Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think the only thing I would add is, it would be nice that whatever we do come forward with a recommendation, that we don't cut ourselves out of future options. Like, so if we say, hey, we're gonna do this approach, but it's also ready for some other elements to be added to it, so it's not going to lock us out from a certain technology or a certain, way to, if it's solar or whatever, you can add to it. It's not gonna lock you out, so.
Did we
That's how we're trying to kind of get the mindset of the committee thinking in those terms.
Was there anyone from the Hollis Energy Committee at the meeting? I don't recall.
No,
But so-
not in our first meeting, but I
Is
suspect,
the person identified to you? Or just that they're gonna?
just the kind of the chair of that committee has
Okay.
reached out. They have a white paper that I'm reviewing and we'll share. I just kind of got it today, so.
Yeah, I just don't want to be in a situation where they don't participate, but then have a very strong position
Right.
when we
Right.
come with a recommendation.
Right.
Right.
I don't believe there's one from actually seated on the committee, which is why I was asking about the select board, because the select board doesn't have to appoint a selectman, they could appoint a
Anybody.
member of the
Yeah.
energy committee, so.
Anybody they want, yeah.
You know, so, I was just curious as to what's going on with that, so. But they don't have to have a select board member, they could have
No.
a representative from the town, it
Anybody
would
they
make,
want.
somebody from the energy committee would make sense, so.
Well, but I thought we didn't have a Hollis resident and we didn't have a select board.
Tom Enright's the Hollis resident.
Oh, okay.
I don't know
He's
if he
at
was
large.
there.
Yeah, he was
Yeah, he's
there,
there.
yeah, okay.
Right, so Tom Enright's the Hollis resident.
He's actually our vice chair.
Okay. He has a little bit of background on this stuff, so it's probably a good thing, so.
Great.
It's definitely a good thing, I shouldn't say probably. Okay, so is that it, Rob?
Yes.
Thank you so much for that work. I mean,
Sure.
it's a very, I think it's a great way to process this stuff. So it sounds like you're doing really good work. It's awesome. Any other questions for Rob?
Thank you.
Okay, so we just need information on the retained fund balance, which I believe is us taking a look at this memo.
Yeah, so there's a memo in the packet from Business Administrator Kelly Seeley. So we don't have very hard numbers right now. Our auditors have taken over all of our parking spots and our available space.
It's been there.
Darn it.
Fancy, yeah, some of them have fancy cars. Anyway, and so they're still in the middle of all of that fun stuff. However, the recommendation is presented here. The audit fieldwork has not been completed, so we don't know what the final available balance is for FY '23. But based on the June memo, the recommendation is for the board to approve retaining up to 2%, which would be $398,433. The final amount could be less, as we plan to purchase those things that you had approved prior, while maintaining a return of $200,000 to the taxpayers as a reduction in the tax effort. So with all things considered, the retained fund balance would not go below $300,000.
Is that 300,000 after the 200 is taken out?
Correct.
Technically, will it still show up as part of the retained fund balance until a certain period of time?
Or the 398? Or the 300, whatever ends up
I'm
being.
just saying, so let's say there was 398, would the balance show as 598? Because I thought it was, I don't know when that actual transfer takes place.
The transfer takes place, well, first there's a vote, but it's based on a number that is provided to us from the auditors, based on their findings.
No, but I mean, when do we actually return money to the towns?
So that's
Can we do it anytime once it's approved?
No, so once the auditors kind of finalize the year, then it's something that goes back in the fall when the tax effort is calculated. So you have what was voted on and approved in March, and then the tax effort.
It's in like our November, December.
So for a period of time, it will still show up in the retained fund balance, won't it? Or just
No.
dribbled out as a,
Oh, you mean for the records that we supply for,
like if someone's looking at the books, it doesn't get broken out as a separate category, because I thought it was returned.
It's probably
from-
still
no,
there.
but what you would see is, you would see FY '24, not FY '23, right? So we report out on your quarterly, or depending on the time of year, more often, the fiscal year that we're in. So you're not gonna see FY '23, and that would be FY '23 money.
But where does the 390, if we retain, say 398, where does that
So,
show up?
I thought you meant the 200 that goes
I
back
do.
to the tax. Okay.
So you're saying that the 200 won't show up in the FY '24
Correct.
books? Does the
Linda, where do you put the retained fund
398
balance?
show up?
That, and on the report, it's that at the bottom, the things that we fund after we come up with a fund balance. You know, the net number
And so-
that we take out, we subtract out those balances.
But that's there, because it's been retained, but the idea is, it then falls to fund the next year,
So
essentially.
It's just that immediately becomes a revenue line on, a revenue line on the FY '24 24?
Most often, because it's a percentage, it changes, but most often it becomes like a net zero, right? So if it was,
But it
like a.
becomes income, it essentially becomes income in FY '24.
24. Right, and the idea is that it's used to fund next year's unless we vote that we need to utilize it. But it's pulled out to the bottom, so it doesn't look like it's in our total amount, because you can't just access it, you need to vote to use it. It's not just in the general cash flow.
Even in FY '24, we have to vote on it?
Yep. Yeah.
For, if we want to use the retained fund
Yeah,
balance,
yeah.
not the 200,000, but the,
No.
any of the retained fund
Yeah,
balance, if we want to
absolutely.
use it, we need to vote on.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm just saying that. I'm
I
I'm
thought-
not,
I
I'm not
thought-
answering the question, I'm just like repeating what I'm hearing.
I thought once it got approved to retain it,
No, I think even in the motion, even in the warrant, it says that any kind of expenditure from the retained fund balance will be approved by the school board. I
That's
believe
where
it
the
says that in the
change-
warrant. I don't know though 100%, but.
Yeah, I mean, I could pull it up, but it is a vote by the school board, so you would know before we actually accessed it. So that's why it's just a separate thing on the bottom.
And I believe there's also a public hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think there is. I think that sounds right.
Yeah.
Okay, great,
So if
thank
you
you.
still agree with the plan,
Then we
there's,
just have to pass this
there's a
motion.
sample motion, and then, of course, once the auditors finish their work and we have our reports, then those final numbers will be given to you.
Okay. that
so
sounds
you're
good.
asking us to vote on it before we know the number?
So we're voting to retain up
Up
to
to-
the sum
up to.
of. We won't know the total number, and like she said, it could be less than 398,400.
But not less
30.
than 300, so it's
But-
somewhere between 300 and 398,
So we'd be
433.
voting on it as a percentage, or as a dollar amount?
It's a dollar amount in the motion that was crafted. Up to that amount. Okay?
Right, and the 300,000 that she's talking about would be about 1.5%. So it's, we're looking at between 1.5% to 2%,
And we were approved at 2.5, right?
Yeah.
up to 2.5.
Up to 2.5.
Which is almost $500,000.
Okay, so we're retaining less than what we are allowed to, but we're still retaining some that would potentially be something that we could use in the future if something occurred that we needed to use it.
The RSA limit is 5%?
It is.
Ours is 5.
Yeah, and so we're still, it's quite reasonable. And she is saying that she believes, given everything, that the fund balance will not go below 300,000. Right? That's what she's saying in this memo.
Right.
Great. Okay, so if there aren't any further questions on that, no? Okay, then we're going to move forward to deliberations. The first item is to appoint a treasurer for the co-op school district. So I believe that once we do that, the current treasurer, which is Claudia Dufresne, will submit her resignation, but we don't have to approve her resignation, right? Okay, so can you tell us who this?
Yes, so Karen Jew is willing to serve as the cooperative school board treasurer. So she is a Brookline resident and served on the Brookline School Board for years.
Right.
And has experience as a treasurer and bookkeeper in her prior profession.
Right.
So she met for a long time with the business office staff and has agreed.
Okay, great. So I need a motion to appoint Karen Jew as the treasurer of the Hollis Brookline Cooperative School District.
So
Moved by Beth,
Second.
second by Kate. Is there any discussion? Just really quickly, so she's going to be, she will be in the position through March, and then is she, is this
No,
this
so
is appointed?
Co-op and SAU is
Co-op and SAU is
appointed.
appointed,
Yep.
okay, thank you. But in Hollis and Brookline, they need to be
It's a vote,
elected.
yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm getting confused, because I know I voted for Claudia in the past. So, okay.
There was a comment made, though, that questioning whether or not the co-op should change that. Do you know?
I didn't hear that comment, but
Andy had said that at the last meeting. I'm just wondering, is that who decides whether it's appointed or elected, do you know?
I don't know. I can ask.
So we'll figure that out. But in the meantime, we need a treasurer, and she's willing to do it. So
And when would she start?
she would start as soon as Claudia resigns, so like tomorrow.
9/1 would be the effective date.
Okay, thank you.
What would be the effective date?
Not
9/1.
tomorrow.
Okay, September 1st. Okay,
Close.
so all those in favor? 6-0. Great, thank you. All right, so we have to put an action item on a motion regarding the business administrator's recommendation for the retained fund balance. And the way it's written here is I need a motion to retain up to the sum of $398,433 of school fund balance from the FY '23 school year as the end of year available funds allow. Can someone,
So moved.
moved by Beth,
Second.
second by Kate. Is there any discussion? I mean, we kind of just
So,
covered it.
Yeah,
Yes.
just a quick question. Everything you discussed had the percentage, which was up to the dollar amount, but the motion just has the dollar amount.
Right, so the percentage was in the memo, but the
Yeah.
motion is written for the
Just-
dollar amount.
just clarifying.
That is what
Yeah.
Kelly Wright suggested.
But it does say up to.
Up
in the
to,
motion.
though,
Yep,
up to
yep,
in the
I heard
motion.
that part. Perfect, just making sure that was intentional.
I don't know the intention of the motion writer, but yes, it seems like this was the intention, so. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor? 6-0, so motion carries. Okay, moving on to policy, our favorite part of the night. We need to put on the floor policy JF, which is enrollment. And the motion, I just read what we're up to here. Is this third and adopt? So I need a motion to accept policy JF enrollment for third reading and adopt.
So moved.
Moved by Beth,
Second.
second by Kate. All right, so, Tim, I'm gonna have you, is it okay for you to speak to what we changed? Thank
Yep.
you.
So we had some adjustments in the second reading in June that we kept in place. And we had some concerns raised, particularly around the third paragraph. The term fifth-year seniors was removed. We found some of the feedback was that that fifth-year senior term was vague in that it didn't necessarily identify a particular type of student. There's different types of fifth-year students. Some students are back for a fifth year because they need to attain a class or two. Some students are on individualized plans and are here with us until they're 22. And fifth-year seniors really didn't seem to apply. So we removed that term altogether. So that statement now reads, the only exception to this policy shall be for students whose specialized plan requires variations of student schedules. And then the last sentence in that paragraph read, in the event the State Department of Education advises that part-time students can be counted for state aid purposes, the board will reconsider this policy. And the conversation that we had at policy was that if in that circumstance, if the State Department of Ed advises that, we're going to review the policy regardless of whether it's in there, so we removed that statement as well.
And also part of the conversation was that this just defines what a part-time student is. So if the state says we can count part-time students for state aid purposes, we've defined it. So we know what they are, so we can then count them. It's only if the state were to come in and redefine part-time, full-time student that we would then have to make changes. So that was sort of part of the conversations. We don't really need it. It was superfluous.
I think that was it.
Yeah. Are there any other?
Just remind us what triggered us having to even address this policy right now?
Sure. So in
I'll
June,
do that.
it came back up, so, do you want the short version or the long version?
Short.
Short version. Okay, so in June, we brought forward the language in the second paragraph. We added an additional statement specific to students in grades 12. So about halfway down, the sentence starts, full-time shall be defined as actively enrolled in a minimum of 6 approved in accordance with policy IMBC. That language existed, courses and or credits, that language existed. And then we adjusted this last part in grades 9 through 11, and a minimum of 5 approved in accordance with policy IMBC, alternative credit options, courses and or credits for students in grades 12. And the discussion that we had was around the 23 credit diploma, how the additional year of 6 credits held students who play sports to a higher academic standards with 6 classes a year, that's 24 credits. with our graduation requirement being 23. We talked at length about how this would impact students in CTE courses in senior year, and how you may have accumulated enough credits to graduate, you might be on pace to graduate, but that senior year, if this were a requirement that in order to be enrolled in 6 classes to be considered a full-time student, it would inhibit some of those CTE students to take part in things like athletics. We also talked.
It was actually-
The basic thing was to bring this policy in line with our actual graduation requirements.
Yeah, it was also triggered by, a larger conversation about multiple policies about enrollment, and we actually changed this policy. If you look, we amended it in August 16, 2023, and actually added the six approved and made full-time student 6 approved. But prior to that, it wasn't quite that many, and so we kind of increased the requirements, right, for being a full-time student based on, we have to go back to the minutes and read
So
that
unintended
conversation.
consequences.
And the unintended consequence was that we actually made it so that seniors in high school who have the desire to be an athlete for their final year are unable to be eligible if they're only taking 5 classes. But yet we know that many seniors they're done,
Yeah,
like
no,
so that's sort of what
that's
happened.
not-
So it was triggered by a bigger conversation, and then we kind of made a little,
No, it's
we
been-
glitched it up,
I had forgotten, that's all.
right?
There was no subterfuge going on.
No, so, yeah, and then there was feedback, and then, we talked a little bit about the language of specialized plan, requires variations of student schedules, and we decided to keep that language such as, because it does mostly refer to individual education plans, but there could be some other kind of plan for a student, so that's why we have a specialized plan there for students who are gonna be with us till they're 22, or maybe till they're 20, or whatever, so. Are there any other questions? Okay, I'm gonna call the vote. All those in favor? This was to adopt. That's 6-0. Take this one.
Did somebody actually make the motion?
I did.
Yes,
Okay.
it's been moved and seconded by Beth and Kate, and it's 6-0, and it has been adopted. Okay, we're gonna skip J.
I think there's one in between.
Yeah, I know, for some reason IMBD is not,
High school credit for
I
something.
know, I missed it.
It's
I know.
sideways.
What?
It's printed sideways.
It's there.
Do you just
So
want
I'm
me-
not-
I just need the motion, though. I guess it's just the motion to accept
That's a third.
for third reading and adopt the policy, IMBD, high school credit for 7th and 8th grade coursework.
So moved.
Moved by Beth,
Second.
seconded by Kate, and I will find it. Okay, there it is. There you go, Tim, this is you again.
Yep. Does anyone want me to go back to the beginning of when this was brought forward? Was it April?
This was.
This one
no,
doesn't
this
last
was-
as long as
this
the
was-
last one.
No, it isn't. This was like
Does
a
anyone
law.
come
We're
up
required
to-
by law
Come.
we're required by law to have a policy that says
Yep.
whether or not we're gonna accept.
We came across this during our internal kind of policy subcommittee at the high school, and it was something that we wanted to have in policy regarding our approach and how we handle advanced coursework completed prior to entering high school. So this is third and adopt, so I'll just address the most recent edits, and if people want history on things, please stop me or ask. So that last paragraph, when we brought it forward in June, we wanted to clarify some elements here. So we added the statement prior to enrolling. We took it from the end of the sentence. We felt it flowed better at the beginning. So prior to a student enrolling in Hollis Brookline High School courses, the high school principal or their designee shall, we removed the term review and included an approve or deny language. And we felt that that was a little more purposeful language and encompassed exactly what we want. Shall approve or deny such coursework for potential acknowledgement of achievement, matching the language in the first paragraph, which is what we are required to do so by law. Acknowledge achievement, and just to reiterate, we acknowledge achievement by qualifying coursework as potentially meeting prerequisite requirements. And like I said earlier, we removed that last statement and just kind of put it at the beginning of the sentence to have better flow there. So those were the requests. Oh, and then I removed parentheses around the term potentially in the first paragraph, first sentence.
job. Are there any questions for Tim? Yes, Tom?
Do we have an academic review committee?
Yes.
The only thing is it a formal continuing committee?
The members of the committee are determined based on the particular topic, so
Okay,
if
so it
there's
is,
a,
it is an ad hoc committee that's brought together from,
Yeah.
okay. I was just curious about and versus the. So there isn't a single committee.
Right, it's not a
Correct.
continuing committee, but like if this were a problem, or if there's another issue related to something else, a group of individuals are brought together, but
we
it's
have-
not one person.
We have a, either procedure or something to create a committee if someone were to.
yep.
Okay, thank you.
All those in favor? 6-0. That one's done. So then we are, that 6-0, that motion carries. So now we have to look at EFAA, and this is an accept first reading, waive subsequent readings, and adopt policy EFAA, school lunch payment policy. So I need a motion to accept the first reading, waive subsequent readings, and adopt policy EFAA, school.
So moved.
Moved by Beth,
Second.
second by Kate. And I think, who's speaking to this? Is it
Can I
Kate?
ask just a quick question, why we're waiving, just because usually we don't do first policy and leave everything else, but just
Gina was
the
at our meeting.
rationale behind that, is it a timeline that we need to meet? But usually when we first present something, we
Yep,
never.
sounds like a timeline. It has been adopted in our other two districts for years, but it didn't come before co-op. I wasn't present at the last policy meeting, so I don't remember the conversation about why it was first in adopt. I mean, it is a timeline thing,
Well-
so if it's out here now, then it's clear.
We did it because we did feel like you guys needed it. And this is directly from Hollis's policy.
Which has been
Um,
out.
And we just thought it was important to get it
My
on the
guess,
books.
my guess is that it requires action at the start of the school year.
That's what I
That's my
figured I was
guess.
asking, yeah, just want to check, because we just not usually do that.
No, we don't usually do that, and
No,
but
and we talked about it and we were hesitant to do it, but we thought because it is a policy directly from the Hollis School District and that it would be safe to.
it's really,
We've been
it is
following
very much all about
It's procedural.
payment and procedures related to, my school bucks and all the,
But it is what we are
lunch runs.
doing
And it's what we're doing, we're
Right.
doing all of
We're
that,
just
so,
putting it-
and
right.
given the fact that, the school year starts in a few weeks, we felt like it was important to get it out there, so.
This may be the first reading of the policy, but it's not the first discussion of the concern. I recall having a discussion recently because there was the whole question about what do we do, how do we address it, because when we were going through budgeting, and there was the unpaid, uncollected amounts that we brought up, we had a fairly lengthy discussion on what can and can't be done. And I think one of the things that's interesting is this does describe what what action can be taken when we didn't have the authorization to do that. If I recall correctly, one of the things that came up in that discussion was the fact that a family must decide on their own to apply for free or reduced lunch. The school can't do it on their behalf, we can't force them. But we're sort of caught in the catch-22 that if they don't do it and can't afford it, we still have to feed the child.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I think that this was viewed as a necessary policy to address that area of uncertainty.
Mhm.
Kind of fair assessment?
Yeah,
Yes.
I think it is. It's definitely fair, and
Very good
because,
assessment.
because school is starting, it felt like it was time to get it done. So, and this is something that if Hollis and Brookline both have the same exact policy, so folks who are in our district should be, it's not a change.
And we actually follow
Right, we do it.
exactly.
So,
I was
Builds
just gonna ask-
consistency.
Yeah, I just had one very specific question in this, because you said it is the same as Hollis and Brookline, and this is what we're doing, but the one thing, the à la carte and snack purchases are not to be permitted, are not permitted for any student with a negative balance. I'm not sure that that's currently being enforced, in fact, I'm quite sure
I
it's
think- is it-
not. It is at the bottom of the
Yeah, it does
first
say are
page.
not permitted.
Yeah, I was just curious about that, and just because if we're saying that this is what we're doing, I'm quite confident this is not what we're doing.
know, I
With
think
4
so.
kids with
I mean,
out of
I've
control
definitely
school lunch
witnessed
bills.
denial of
Yeah,
such
yeah.
items.
Yeah, I just
Um,
wasn't sure, because it says that we're gonna deny it, so is there, because there's a lot of students that have very negative accounts that really are run up by à la carte, and I know my kids are not the only ones that have done this, because I've heard from other parents. So I was just curious, if we're not doing that, is there a certain dollar amount, or are we going to start enforcing that? Because that's a big change.
So we are enforcing it to some degree.
Sure.
But we can't deny the meal.
Yes, the meal
So
I
then the
understand.
bill continues to go into the
Okay.
negative. So
Yeah.
I think part of the question is, if you evaluate everything purchased, like when were the à la carte items, because my kids go through, like Amy Cassidy says, like, just send your check directly to me. I mean,
Yeah, right.
and, you know, I'm feeding Hollis and Brookline with the à la carte items that they just give to others.
Yes.
Not irritated at all by that. But at what point are those from the balance versus the lunches that we continue to serve? And like I said, I'll stand around here in the lunch line, and
Yeah.
students are denied. Now,
Yeah.
when it's a rush,
Yeah.
does it necessarily happen? Potentially not. And so
Sure.
that is,
Okay.
but Amy Cassidy does a really good job of training the staff
Yeah.
and making sure that
Yeah.
we are.
Oh, yeah, and
Holding the kids to
she's
this,
fabulous, and I definitely
but-
would never wanna see a student denied lunch, like the meal.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I
we
just-
can't.
we can't.
We
Right,
can't, that's
exactly.
legally, we can't.
Right, exactly, but with the à la carte, like I think it still kinda keeps running from what I've seen in the history, cause I've had to look into
Yeah.
it too. So it's just something to make note of that, because, you know, we just wanna make
Yeah,
sure.
I think
we're
it's one of those things
consistent.
like, yes, it's in here and we should definitely communicate to Amy that it's in here. I do think, you know, the language is very specific, but sometimes the negative balance isn't caught right away either, like
Exactly.
by the person
Sure.
who's ringing
Yep.
the
Well, that's
kids
what it
out,
is.
because they don't get like a
Yep.
report. The negative balance is kept sort of on the, that's more
They
like
do
an
see
internal.
it, but it's a matter of timing.
Right.
And if it's a long line and you're trying to get everyone through
Right,
lunch,
right.
you're not, they're not gonna all pop up.
Right. So, I think we can approve it as is and.
Oh, no, I think it's fine to approve it as is. I was just questioning that because again, it's
Oh,
not
no,
just
I
my
have-
own
I
kids.
have
I've
one of
heard
those
from
kids
parents
too,
that
right.
it gets quite, before the parents realize it, it's quite in the negative.
Yeah.
And it's not just meals, it's a little bit of everything.
I think it's a
so-
good point, but I think it's better to
Yep.
just have it go back to food services.
Yeah,
That's-
'cause I'll
That was
say-
our only concern. Yeah.
I'll say too that there are times when a meat alternative is not
It's not
an
an
option.
option.
They've run out, and so then you're back to needing to be able to feed a student. And I think at that point, then they need to
Right.
be able to have those à la carte options.
Right, and I think we are aware that, you know, in any district, the reimbursable meal could be, as long as it provides these things, but I think our district defines the meal as sort of like the hot lunch, you know what I mean, like what the hot lunch is with, like it's not as, okay, like another district might be like, you can only get the sun butter sandwich and the ham and cheese sandwich, but we allow the kids to get like a lunch, so, but we don't have to, we could say, you can only, so,
They did change it, so we're not
right.
really permitted to just give the negative balance lunch.
Right, right, so you have to give like the regular lunch, okay. I thought maybe, okay,
Well, that was a more recent shift.
okay, but the language in here doesn't really, it allows, it's vague enough that you can do whatever, yeah.
Is this something that is viewed as sufficient concern that it should be heavily publicized and enforced?
I think that we're also in a transition, because you have to remember through the pandemic, we were providing
No,
meals.
I
And so I
understand
think,
that.
I'm hoping, I'm guessing, like, but to your point, I'm thinking it's improved, I hope that it's improving and it will continue to improve, that,
Not having.
but there's an educational
kids in
piece for
school
sure.
right now, I'm just wondering,
Yeah.
quite frequently, we approve a policy and nobody knows about it. So,
Yeah.
is this something that, is it that
Actually,
we have practice and this is backing up the practice, or?
we actually had a conversation about that, because if you look at the bottom, the list of communication, so unfortunately, because we're gonna be approving this policy on August 16th, it won't actually be able to go into any of the hard copies of the handbooks that are out, or even information that has been sent out already to register students. So in order to register students, links and, documents have been provided. So we talked in policy committee with Tim and with Patrick about sending this policy out in a communication to parents, like a la carte, like, here's a new policy for you to be aware of, and then it'll be uploaded into the online handbook. So we are going to communicate to families this policy.
Yeah,
so
we were
that
holding
they'll-
off till it.
We were holding off till it got approved, and then once it gets approved, Tim was gonna send it out to, Tim and Patrick were gonna send it out to the families.
Thank you for remembering that.
Yes, I do remember that, because it's in that part, so we wanna make sure it's in there, and, yeah. And then it'll be a part of the handbook next year.
And the good news is it's already in the elementary.
Well, it can be a part of the handbook, you can put it in.
Right, but it'll be a part of the handbook that gets
Right.
distributed, because I believe you distribute the handbook as a PDF or just as a link, but the
in
current
the
link.
registration,
Right,
yeah.
right, is in the registration, is not gonna be up to date with this policy. It'll become up to date after we approve it, which is another reason why we wanted it approved by the end of this month, so that it could be sent out to families, because it is a little bit, it's not a change of what we're doing, but it is important for parents to understand, or for families to understand, that the school could certainly and should certainly be turning away your need for sun chips if you're in a negative balance. I guess I shouldn't say sun chips, because maybe those are good, but whatever. I feel like my son bought a lot of sun chips, or some sort of chips, a lot of chips. So, he's a chip guy, so, okay, not that you needed to know that. So all those in favor? 6-0, motion carries. Okay, so that is the last one. So I need a report out from the process observer.
Do we have it on?
I don't believe we do.
So, we cruised through this baby, we're at 7:36. So, we did great. This seems like a kind of typical August school board meeting where it's a little bit light, which is kind of nice. We had good discussions. I liked the information about ROC and the new ROC program. I think that'll be helpful and hopefully beneficial to other kids. We got three policies passed.
Done, like
So-
adopted, so.
Yeah, so that feels good.
For those of us on the
So-
policy committee, it feels great.
Thumbs up by the process observer.
Thank you very much. I guess I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Beth,
Second.
second by Kate, all those in favor. And we are adjourned at 7:37, that was unanimous.
Gina's on Zoom.